Well, I think it's midday here on the East Coast, so we'll kick this off. So welcome everyone to the GitLab 10.6 kickoff. And yeah, I can't believe that we're already at GitLab 10.6, the third release of 2018. It seems like only yesterday that GitLab 10.0 was released. Everyone's invited to follow along in the public kickoff document if you like. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description. And you're encouraged to ask questions at any time using YouTube's live chat. And a reminder to all the GitLabbers using Zoom to also make use of the YouTube chat so everyone can participate. We have a really exciting release coming in 10.6, and it's probably going to be the best one yet, which we say every time, but I think it could actually be true this time. And it's going to be released on March 22nd. I'm really excited about some of the improvements coming in epics and portfolio management and merge requests, which I use every day. But there's also amazing improvements coming to GitLab security testing, which gets better every single release. And we've also got some great stuff coming for Omnibus and monitoring. So without further delay, Victor, do you want to tell us more about what we can look forward to for discussion in 10.6?
Definitely. Thank you, James. So for 10.6 in the discussion band, what we're going to do is continue to work on portfolio management. We're going to plan to bring commenting or comment threads to epics. And if you recall, epics are a new feature in portfolio management. It's our flagship feature right now, allowing you to group multiple issues together. And we want people to collaborate within an epic. So we've been planning this for a while. We wanted to do it last release, but we moved things around. So we plan to bring it in this release and allow folks to comment, to talk with one another, to plan within an epic, and also within our comment threads elsewhere in GitLab, you see system notes when things happen. And so leaving an audit history of what's going on within the epic, within issues that are attached to the epic and things like that. So we're bringing all that together within epics. With epics, we've seen uptick of usage here at GitLab, so I'm really excited about that. And so what that brings organizational needs. So something that we've anticipated early on, which is we have a concept called labels. So why don't we take that great design and apply that to epics? So we're going to do exactly that. So labels will be applicable to issues as usual, but now labels will also be applicable to epics. And of course, they've always been available for merge requests. So labels will be, you can assign them to issues, merge requests, and now epics. And so once we have that, we want you to be able to filter by label, say on an epic list page. And that's exactly what we want to bring to 10.6. And so with 10.5, we are already shipping that search and filter bar that you've seen all across GitLab. We're going to reuse that same UI. And that filter part is already coming in as part of 10.5. And you'll be able to actually search for epics and actually filter by author. But we're going to take that filter bar and then allow you to filter by labels in 10.6. And of course, you'll be able to assign labels, in particular group labels, to epics. Bench commenting code review is something that we've been working very hard on already in 10.5, and we're doing a lot of the technical work. Our engineers are hard at work solving a lot of these technical problems, and to be able to set up a really good platform to allow batch commenting. So we're really excited for that, and we're planning to continue to do more work on that feature in 10.6. Again, that's allowing you to send or publish multiple comments all at once instead of clicking publish multiple times or commenting multiple times. You can do it all at once and send one email to the people who care about that particular merge request. Group boards have been a feature that people have loved since we've released the feature in GitLab. So we are really excited to bring that feature to Libre, formerly CE. And so that group board feature will be available for even more users. And so you can click through to see there's a little bit more nuance to the different features in issue boards. There's a nice table there if you click through. But the big picture is we're bringing group issue boards to GitLab Libre, formerly GitLab CE. And merge request improvements, we have a bunch of those there. I'll let you click through those. But essentially, we want to continue to improve the the user experience, especially in merge requests, where it's becoming very, very powerful, especially in the merge request widget. You can do a lot of things with merge requests. You can integrate, or it is integrated with a lot of features within GitLab in both directions, in the planning direction and the downstream direction with CICD and whatnot. So we're working hard to improve the user experience so it doesn't get cluttered. We don't fall behind with the user experience. Similarly, we're going to improve that experience with labels and milestones. The label list page has already been redesigned in 10.5, and I'm excited for everybody to see that when 10.5 ships in a couple of weeks. But we're going to continue to tweak it, and same for the group milestone page, and also showing modals and whatnot. Finally, the last item I did want to mention is API improvements. And this has become very important for us, especially, or an example is the Approvers API. We have a customer working closely with us that is really excited to use our Approvers API, where we will allow folks to be able to set the number of approvers, eligible approvers through the API for a particular merge request or for the project level overall. And that's something that we're really excited to do with the API in general, because it allows us to understand how folks are using GitLab so that we can build those features afterward natively into GitLab. So our customers, our users are a lot of times, a lot faster than us in building features. And that's great because they can consume our API, tell us what they're using and why it's important, and we can build those features into GitLab, the GitLab web UI natively. So that's really exciting for us. Fabio, continue to tell us more exciting things.
Yeah, thank you, Victor. It's amazing we can ship all this huge amount of stuff every month. So let's start with the CICD band items. The first one, we are continuing working on the Kubernetes and GKE integration in 10.6. So this is a very long story. We started a few releases ago, but there is still a lot that we want to do. And so in this release, we are trying to improve the flow for new users, or at least users that are creating new projects and that want to add a cluster in order to leverage, for example, auto DevOps, review apps, or deployments. So we are going to add a button in the new project page, or even if you already have some files, this will make it very, very easy to bring the user to the clusters page, to Kubernetes page, and from there, follow the stream that allows you to create a new Kubernetes link to your project. I have to thank you, the discussion team, for that, because they are helping in this effort. Then we have another flow that allows users to easily add a cluster and deploy a cluster with the GitLab runner already installed, configured, and linked back to the GitLab instance of the specific project. This is very, very helpful in case you want to deploy a specific runner for your project, but you don't have all the capabilities that you may need for that. So we are adding a button here too in the settings page that will allow easily to jump to the clusters page. And from there, you will be able to add a runner in a very, very simple way. So even here, we have some help from the discussion band. Thank you for that. And after you do all this flow, your runner is ready to pick up jobs for your project. That's very, very helpful. The runner will be deployed on the Kubernetes itself in auto-scale mode. So even if it's just one, it will allow you to satisfy all the requirements for your project. Then we are also improving auto DevOps. In this release, we are gonna finish a story that unfortunately we weren't able to finish in 10.5, that is extending only and except to add environment variables and Boolean logic. This will allow people to define a job to be picked up by runners only if particular conditions will met. This is really, really interesting for a lot of scenarios, but the most important one we are considering now is that the auto DevOps template can be then customized using variables. We are also really, really busy helping in the GCP migration process. 10.6 iteration will manage the object storage direct access and part of the data migration. Then very exciting news, we have a new item in the kickoff list that is a security products. This is a very brand new band that was just created. And This band is now responsible for the security features that we started developing in GitLab a few iterations back, thanks to Dimitri for that. And now a whole team is dedicated to improve them and to add very new cool functionalities. In 10.6, we are working in the gymnasium transition. So we want to provide an integration on the functionalities that are actually provided by Gymnasium at the moment. And we want to include them in our own tools. So people that will use GitLab security tools like SAST, they can benefit now from this integration and get even more results and more interesting information about the security of their projects. We are also going to support SAST checks for Java applications. Probably this step will target Maven projects. We already have dependency checking for Java projects in 10.5, but in 10.6 we add proper SAST, so static analysis in a deeper way. We are also trying to improve our desk tool. This is actually a stretch item at the moment, but we are quite confident we can work on it. This will allow our desk tool to run on applications that are web applications requiring authentication. So it's not just a black box test of the application that maybe it's just the home page. It cannot go deeper because of the form, the login form. Now you can provide credentials, and the desk tool will be able to act like a user that is a malicious one. So even with credentials, we'll try to do something that is not allowed by the application. And all the results will be reported as usual in the merge request widget. And that's all for security products for this month. So now, James, what about platform?
Thanks, Fabio. Those are amazing improvements. And I feel quite honored that platform gets to do one of the most big security features this release. So the first thing I want to tell you about is a feature coming to Libre, formerly known as GitLab CE, and that is to be able to grant maintainers right access to a branch when you open a merge request from a fork. So this is a really common workflow for organizations or projects that use a forking workflow. A community member will open a merge request on the upstream project, and the maintainer might want to contribute a fix or patch back to that branch or rebase it to help keep the merge request moving along. But without permissions, they can't do that. And so merge requests can stall just because they don't have access. So we'll be adding this feature in such a way that when you open a merge request or when you edit a merge request, you can grant maintainers access to the branch. So that'll be really useful for forked workflows. We're also adding badges natively to GitLab. So a lot of projects already use the little badges like shields.io and other little build badges. We've got them for GitLab CI with build statuses, and they get added to project readmes. But we wanted to add a more native location for these in GitLab. So coming in 10.6, you can add them in a structured way to the project, and they'll appear below the project description right at the top of the page. And a really cool feature is we're going to make it possible to do this for groups. So if you've got a collection of related projects and you want to have a shared status across all of them, you can do that. And so I think that's going to be really popular. GitLab also has a really great project export feature that allows you to export the entire project, not just the repository. So you get the issues, you get the merge requests, the wiki, everything in one nice export. And the community member's been working on making that available via an API. So you can export the project via API. But in 10.6, we're going to also be adding an import API so that we'll have a full scriptable workflow. So you can take a project, export it via API, and then using an API, import it into a different instance or maybe back it up somewhere else. So that's going to be really useful for those project export workflows. And as Fabio mentioned, we're building CI and CD only projects. So starting in 10.6, you'll be able to create a new project and select a new option, provide a URL or import a project from GitHub. And we'll keep it up to date and run pipelines on every commit on that repository. We'll set up the integrations with GitHub to automatically pull changes and be notified by webhooks. We'll push commit statuses back. And so this is going to be great for Gymnasium customers who want to continue using the great security testing that they've built. And they'll be able to do that via GitLab using CI and CD only projects. And I'm sure we're going to continue to improve this over coming releases to make it even better. And last but not least, from platform, we're continuing to make the web IDE even better. It's been getting better with every release since 2 months ago. And I'm really looking forward to being able to open a merge request in the web IDE with one click. We'd hope to get this in 10.5, but unfortunately, it didn't make it. So it'll be in 10.6 along with viewing diffs. And we've got a number of other improvements as well, like fuzzy file finders, so you can quickly jump to a file you're looking for without having to navigate the file tree, and we're adding markdown previews. So this is going to be really great for people who use the web IDE. Jumping over to Geo, we've been working on Geo really hard, and we're using it as part of the GCP migration. So we're really focused on replication performance and fixing any issues that occur there, and making sure that it scales to the largest kinds of instances. So GitLab.com is a great test bed for verifying that. We're also looking at improving our verification capabilities. So this will help all our DR customers who want to verify that their Geo replicas are identical to the primary. And we're also looking at improving documentation and support for more complex more complex configurations and how to fail over to them. So multi-node, high availability configurations. That's it from platform and Geo. How about you, Joshua? What are you working on?
Yeah, thanks, James. So we got some exciting things here on the docket for both the monitoring and the build teams. So on the monitoring side, one of the first things we want to do is start to add the ability to see the health of your Kubernetes cluster directly within GitLab. And so we're doing our first iteration of having cluster monitoring within GitLab for connected clusters, which is really exciting. So you'll be able to go ahead and see the CPU utilization, but also things like how much CPU or memory you've requested as well, right? So you can see kind of, if you have an imbalance between how much is being utilized versus how much is being requested versus how much is available, you can easily see that directly within GitLab without having to go to, for example, the Kubernetes dashboard. And so you can see if you're running out, for example, of resources and you need to add some nodes, or if you have to, for example, perhaps have some overly aggressive resource allocations that could be scaled back to more closely aligned to what your kind of actual load you're seeing on your services. So that's really exciting there for the monitoring team. We're also doing some UX improvements to our environment performance dashboard, mainly around the legend right now. So we made some improvements there earlier in the last release to have a better hover over, a better flag that kind of shows you as you mouse over the current time period what the data is at that point in time. And we're now going to take advantage of that and take our legend and now show you some summary metrics over that whole time period. Things like the maximum or the average of that particular time series to give you some additional insight into that metric over that time period you're looking at. So that's some pretty exciting things there to continue to improve the UX. Other enhancement we're making is to, on the project side of things, we also still show the CPU memory metrics, and we're enhancing those to better filter that by namespace. So if you have, for example, the same cluster being utilized by multiple projects within GitLab, we can now isolate the CPU memory used by that particular project in namespace and more accurately render that information for you on that particular project, which is pretty nice. Other improvements you're making elsewhere is on the merge request metrics. This is the item in the merge request that shows you how much your memory has changed with the current deployment of that merge request. And right now, that information is pulled from the Prometheus server, but we're going to go ahead and persist that data locally within GitLab to make sure that if the Prometheus server, for example, ages that data out, we still have that and can still render that information. The last one is an item that unfortunately didn't quite make it into 10.5. This is custom metrics, where you'll be able to go ahead and define a custom Prometheus query. We'll then render that within the dashboard as well. So if you have some things tracking perhaps some of your business metrics like e-commerce results or some of the perhaps some user retention and things like that, we can render those directly within the dashboard, and you can see those for these metrics that we don't have already defined and available in the Prometheus metrics library. So some nice benefits there for folks who have perhaps some instrument to their code with Prometheus already for their own particular metrics they care about. So that wraps up the monitoring side. Pretty exciting things in particular for this release. And transitioning to the build side, we have a major item here on the build team. We've been working for a few months now to go ahead and offer a new generation of containers and charts to run GitLab in Kubernetes. So we've gone ahead and split out the containers into multiple components. And so they're each isolated. For example, GitLab Rails and say, for example, Gitly and things like that are their own containers. And we can now horizontally scale these and connect them with a single Helm chart. So that's very exciting here, a big release for us as we push to make a more cloud-native architecture for our Kubernetes customers. That'll be initially available for premium customers just because it depends on some object storage requirements, but we do intend to make that available for our more other license types in the future here as well. That's just kind of for the alpha release, it will have a premium requirement. We're also building on the improvements we made in 10.5 for Let's Encrypt. So right now we have Let's Encrypt being optional in 10.5. And in 10.6, we're making a key improvement here to allow us to have this on by default. And that is the fact that we're able to automatically renew your certificates, right? So in this case, you can go ahead and GitLab will automatically handle that for you. It's a built-in sort of cron task to take care of that job. And with that, we can go ahead and now have Let's Encrypt on by default. This won't change anything if you already have your SSL certificates specified manually. So we'll detect that you actually have SSL certificates you specify them manually. We're not going to try and overwrite those with Let's Encrypt, so don't worry about that. But if you have simply turned on HTTPS in the external URL, we'll go ahead and leverage Let's Encrypt to more transparently and easily add SSL to your installation to make sure more folks can more easily take advantage of a more secure GitLab release. We're also making a few improvements to our current GitLab Omnibus chart. This is the one that leverages our Omnibus package underneath the hood. And we're doing two things here. Number one is we want to make sure it can run and run successfully on the new Amazon EKS preview. This is that managed Kubernetes offering that's available on Amazon here coming up soon. And we also want to go ahead and make sure we can support restoring backups on GitLab Omnibus. So right now in the previous release, we fixed the backing up itself. And now I want to make sure that the restore process can also work here as well. And then a final improvement here we're making is to help improve the method that you can use to skip auto migrations. Right now, there's kind of two different recommendations depending where you look. We want to go ahead and standardize these and deprecate one of them to have a more clean solution for recommendation for how to go ahead and make sure you can skip auto migrations if you want to during an upgrade process. So that's some really exciting things here for the build team. In particular, that cloud native alpha release is going to be huge for us. We can't wait to get folks to try that, get some feedback for those. So again, a massive release here for the build team. And of course, overall, some really exciting things here with the security updates, web IDE improvements, acquisition of Gymnasium. So overall, I think it'll absolutely be the best release ever and can't wait for 10.6 to come out here in late March. So thanks, everyone. And we'll see you again in a month.